How you doing, guys? Let's listen to some music. This is Andy Malfrina, Drag the Lake. This is the DTL R&R page. If you want to listen to full pods, link for it down below. It's a good time. Click on it, please. Please, for the love of Christ, please. Anyway, let's check this out. Poison the Well. Poison the Well is a band that's always been on my to-do list, and I unfortunately, always getting passionate into multiple genres. I had a lot of phases. High school was the pop, like early high school, like middle school was the ska phase. Early high school was the pop punk emo phase. Late high school was the metalcore. College was the rap phase. And now probably the past, and this I think is where I'm settling at, is post-college, becoming an adult is when I really started to settle into, or I should say like adult who has to like pay his own bills and stuff. That's when I really started to settle into hardcore music. I think that's like sort of going to be my long-term home base because it just feels the best. And yeah, Poison the Well was one of those bands. Well, honestly, they kind of weaved in through a lot of those different genres, but whether it be punk, metalcore, hardcore, stuff like that. But regardless, they were just one of those bands I always knew about. I always knew they ripped, but I just missed them. And over the past year or two, I've been like getting into Poison the Well. I know doing Drag the Lake, my co-host Pat on there is a huge Poison the Well fan. So we've talked about them before, and it made me realize like, yeah, I should go back. And I was listening to, what's the album? Feels Like December. It's the one with Nerdy on it. It's got Nerdy and a bunch of other really good shit. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and then also on there, Tear from the Red, the opposite of December. I apologize, not Feels Like December. Nerdy, and then Lazaro is another one I saved from Tear from the Red. Tear from the Red. Anyway, I hope it's coming through. I'm not the most learned Poison the Well fan, but I am. I have listened to them, and I am like, oh, these guys fucking rip. But they're definitely on my. Definitely got into them way too late. But I am at a point now where it's just cool to see them. It's good timing. Around the time I get into them, they're like, hey, why don't we go back to making music and shit? Because I think, let me double check on their Spotify. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Oh, that's why I missed them. Their last album was 2009. And I didn't graduate high school till 2008. Yeah, this would have been, Opposite December was 99? No shit. Okay, so yeah, they stopped making music regularly for like a while. And yeah, I would have just been getting out of my metalcore, starting my rap phase when that makes way more sense why I didn't get into Poison the Well. But either way, after basically like a decade and a half off from making new music. I know they've been touring a lot more lately and stuff like that, but after a decade and a half off from making new music, they finally put out a new song, Trembling Level. So let's check this the fuck out. That's the classic. That's the classic drum fill, by the way. Wow, I kind of wish they went on that part a little longer. That was really fucking cool. That was kind of like a two-step part. Oh, is he doing a double stroke roll? That's clean. Good for him. That's clean, dude. That part ripped. I really like that sort of, it's like a non-breakdown breakdown. Like you could mosh to this, but it doesn't meet the traditional breakdown. Like when a hardcore band does a breakdown, it doesn't meet the traditional breakdown rules. That fucking rips. When you turn it around, not every black cloud can bury me now. God in your storm. When you turn it around, look in the shade, God is calling you there. If you're calling your storm, will you turn it around? Not every black cloud can bury me now. Look in the shade. Look in the shade. Look in the shade. It's calling you now. Fuck yeah. Yeah, that ripped. I gotta be honest, at the very beginning, I was like, not like it was bad, but I was like, oh, this is just gonna be super okay. Because when it first started, I thought they were gonna kind of like hit a bunch of, I thought they were gonna basically, they were like, this is what we're doing. Do a little verse, chorus, get the hell out of here. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm like, oh, wait, they're kind of a hardcore band. So, or not a complete hardcore band, but they're like a heavy band that writes music like heavy bands. And they do all the things good metalcore bands do. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then like as the song kept going, I'm like, oh, yeah, they're going to do cool shit with this. Not just go like a super boring route. They're going to go cool routes with this. And so the beginning was like pretty tame. And then it was really like all the directions that they went with. And I loved it a lot because it's like what I say with a lot of these bands where like, I don't know, maybe it's not obvious because like with me doing my comedy and my broadcasting and my podcasting and the YouTube and all this other shit, I've been in very delusional moments of my life. And sometimes I think I'm still there. You know what I mean? Sometimes I might still be there. So I could see certain bands being like, you kind of like know where you are, but you're like, don't worry, it'll be different for us. Something will, it's like, I can sympathize with being delusional. I've been there more than once. But I feel like with a lot of these bands, I think I wish they would be better at sort of like knowing where, because let's be real. Even at the height of like this music like this being popular, it still wasn't mainstream. It was just, it was a little mainstream. Not even shit like this wasn't ever completely like big. Like, don't get me wrong. In the early 2000s, you could make more money doing music like this, but you weren't with the nature of the genre and the style of music, I don't ever see music like this becoming like mainstream. And I think more bands need to accept that. And it's just like, understand the ceiling on your content. Understand the ceiling. I apologize. Probably a bunch of musicians and music fans just wanted to fucking put a bullet in their head when I said content. I think I was subconsciously relating it to my thing because I'm actively saying a thing that I'm like, you should be more mindful of this yourself, Andy. But no, I think there's a lot of bands that they need to it's like they need to understand the ceiling that they have. Because even like, I think a lot of people are going to look at a band like Knock Loose right now. And, it's going to give them the wrong idea. And they're not going to realize, like, maybe down the line, but like right now, a band like Knock Loose, they're a fucking anomaly. Like full stop. Because, everyone talks about like heavy bands. Like, we were talking at the Grammys last night. And you got like Courtney LeBron, or however you say her name, which that interview where she was, they were confusing her with Poppy and she just went with it. Very funny. And I'm a fan of hers. I think her scream is amazing. Let's be real. Do your damn thing, make your fucking money. I don't care. Just from an artistic standpoint, you're like, when it comes to hardcore music, Spirit Box is like, they're a pretty straightforward rock band with a fun, heavy sheen. Like, their guitars sound amazing. The vocals sound amazing. Like, I will give Spirit Box credit. The guitar tone is nuts. But just from a songwriting standpoint, it's general mainstream rock songwriting, which that's not a compliment. And so it's like, if we really look at the popular rock landscape, it's not that, nothing about it is that groundbreaking. I'm not trying to be a cunt. These are just facts as I see them. So like, people got to remember, a band like Knock Loose, where their last album, you could hear there was a shift in the songwriting to make it more palatable for a broader audience. But like, it's still, you could put on this Knock Loose playlist and, take a song off of You Won't Go Before You're Supposed to, play it right after the hardest song from Laugh Tracks, and you're not going to feel that much of a shift, if any. You know what I mean? And most bands like that in mainstream rock or metal or whatever the fuck, they're not, like, that's not how you would categorize them and shit like that. So it's like, you got to accept, a lot of people might get the wrong idea. Excuse me. A lot of people might get the wrong idea. Just trying to move my legs and make my voice sound stupid. Just the little thing I'm doing. But they might get the wrong idea by looking at a band like Knock Loose's success, and you just go like, dude, this is not the norm. So I say they are an anomaly. So I say all that to say, like, more bands like this, and I don't think Poison the Well gives a fuck about trying to go mainstream. I'm not saying that. They're probably content with, they're probably happy with what they're doing. They're putting out great music. They're being very artistic with it and all this other shit. They don't give a fuck. I'm just saying, this just reminds me of a broader conversation I like to have when I watch these videos and I see these bands and they're doing all the heavy genre shit, and then they're doing like very standard pop rock music format. It's like, brother, you're not going to get, like, because doing that type of songwriting implies a bunch of goals you're trying to get, and you're going to get to probably none of them. So just make some crazy music. And this is also, by the way, why bands, I see a lot of people bitching about Spotify and stuff like that, and I'm open to an argument that they could give bands a better payout. I think if you look at I forget the exact structure of it, but I was watching some shit where they basically laid out how Spotify gives their payouts, like how they figure out how much you get paid per listen and shit like that. And I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, it's completely fair. It's the best one out of all the streaming services. Now, could Spotify be better? Sure. But, wait, why did I get off on that fucking tangent? I was talking about the songwriting shit and the bands getting popular and people being mad about all that shit. God fucking damn it. I got sidetracked. 1 second. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I remember the point I was trying to make. I was going to say, I know a lot of these bands. Now, if you're just in it for the art, you don't give a fuck about money. That's one thing. But a lot of these bands, they have an allergy for sort of figuring out how to monetize the music thing better. But that's the thing when you're in one of these genres. That's how I was relating it to Spotify. I know a lot of bands get mad about Spotify, even though they may not be. We could have this conversation later. They may not be doing it good enough, but they actually do have the fairest, compared to the other streaming service, they have the fairest and highest paying payout comparatively. Now, could Spotify be doing better? Maybe we could talk about that some other time. But a lot of these bands, I think they need to, it's a big theme throughout the fucking music industry is like just holding on to old models and holding on them tight as hell, which is ironic, which is kind of like a conservative thing to do is to be like, that's how it was. We're never going to not do it that way. It's ironic considering like the mass of the music industry is like super left wing, not to be political, but I just thought about the other day. It's actually incredibly ironic because the nature of the music industry and musicians and stuff are procedurally conservative, not politically, but just like but that's another conversation. But no, it's like everyone's, everyone always talking about, it's like talking about money and shit like that. But these bands who are smaller, it's like, dude, accept that there's a ceiling to what you're doing. Unless you are unless you're just fucking reinventing the wheel like Knock Loose and shit like that. If you're one of those bands, that's a different conversation. But it gets to a point where you go, oh, I don't think we're reinventing the wheel. We may need to diversify our revenue streams if you want to make a living at this. That's all I'm saying is like a lot of those dudes like bitch about wanting to make a living at it and shit like that. And then they don't do anything to like get multiple revenue streams. And that's where like a lot of these bands should have more of a mindset on that. And then the irony of it is it's like you don't then... Like, if you figure out other revenue streams, like whatever the fuck it may be, you do a fucking podcast, you do a fucking, you do a fucking Patreon, you do small merch drops more regularly so you can make some more money. You do little things here and there to make extra money. And then the irony is your music can become more pure through that because you don't have to. And I think that's what a lot of these bands do because the music industry and the fandom and all that shit in general shuns like doing all that extra side shit to make money. But ironically, if you did all that extra side shit to make money, you'd have less bands writing bullshit pop music to try to appeal to the mass audience so they get those big checks and they do all that kind of shit. So, it got a little away from the original topic, but just listening to this song, that's kind of why my brain was going on that rant and going those directions and stuff like that. Because this is what I'm saying. When I hear these metalcore bands that write pop songs and they just put a little bit of chugs on it, it's like, dog, you're not going to get big. You're fucking not. You're not going to get big. So learn how to get multiple revenue streams and fucking write songs like Poison the Well. I know that's not glamorous, and I know people are going to fucking tell me I'm retarded, but I'm right. And also, the point is, you can also do that and not be a whore, because that's the beauty of, leaning into a more free market capitalist system is, when you don't have a large government and you're not leaning into like crony bullshit and shit like that, basically selling the whole American dream off to corporations and shit. When you're just participating in like, let me provide these people with a good service and they will pay fairly for it. You know what I mean? It's like, it can work to your benefit. You just don't have to be a fuck about it. You can do it without being a whore. I know all those words are super scary and all that other shit. And I didn't mean to go down this route on a Poison the Well music video reaction, but this is where we're at. But it's just a thing of mine where it's like, I see all these bands working against themselves, and I love these bands so much, and I want them to all be super financially stable and all this other shit. But they're just, they're just married to working against their own self-interest. And I'm really excited for this new Poison the Well album. All right, thank you. Love you all. Be about it. Peace.